This is the part 9 of .NET Core interview questions. In this part, we will cover questions on caching. The questions will be: what is caching in ASP.NET Core? What is in-memory caching? What is distributed caching? When to use in-memory caching and when to use distributed caching? So let's start with the first question. What is caching in ASP.NET Core? Caching is a common concept and it is applicable to all web technologies. Caching basically refers to the process of storing frequently used data so that those data can be served much faster for any future requests. So if you are familiar with the web application, you know if there is a client and it is requesting some data from the database and that data is requested by multiple clients, it's a very common data, then we store this data inside a cache, and for the next request, instead of getting this data from the database, we get this request from the cache, which is very fast. And caching improves the performance of the application because now it is not coming from the database but from the cache. So now this is the basic definition of the caching, which is common to ASP.NET Core, MVC, Java, everywhere. Now, what is in-memory caching in .NET Core? So when we say in-memory caching, it is the normal way of caching. Normal caching means it is storing the cache is stored in the memory of the single server which is hosting the application. So basically the data is cached within the application. This is the easiest way to drastically improve the application performance. So this is the caching which we already know. Sorry. So this is the caching which we already know. That is in-memory caching where the cache is inside the application server only, not outside of it. But then comes distributed caching. What is distributed caching? Distributed caching is when you want to handle caching outside of your application. So suppose you have an enterprise level application and there are a lot of data which you want to cache and you want to maintain a different server for that, then you will use distributed caching. So in this case, you will not store the temporary storage or cache in the same application server. If you have heard of Redis, this is the best option right now available for distributed caching. It is an open source, highly replicated, performant, non-relational kind of database and caching server. So this Redis is a caching server which will make your caching easier. Again, I will say you want this Redis caching server only when you have a enterprise level application. For normal applications, you can do it by the in-memory caching only. There is no need of distributed caching for a normal web application, a simple or medium level web application. The flow in case of uh, distributed caching is same as normal caching. Just the Redis cache will be placed instead of the normal cache, and this Redis cache is separate from the application server. In normal caching, the cache is inside the application server only, but in this case it is separate from the application server. So that is the distributed caching. Next question can be when to use in-memory caching and when to use distributed caching. So I already given the answer, I think, when the application is small in normal cases. When the application is small, use in-memory caching. But when the application is big and complex, and especially if it is using a microservice based architecture, then prefer distributed caching. If you are new or not aware about microservices, then do not worry. Soon I will cover all questions on microservices also, but then that will be a different topic. So that's all about caching. Let's move to the another part in next chapter.